It is with great excitement that we introduce to you our new line of Accu-Lite scope mounts today. And I know what you're thinking, how can someone spend a few minutes talking about mounts? I mean, rifle scopes are pretty interesting, but mounts are boring, right? Well, believe it or not, there's actually quite a lot of thought that has to go into making a good set of mounts. If you think about it, your mounts are what connect your precision rifle scope to your precision rifle. And your shooting system is only as strong as its weakest point. So if you skimp on mounts, if you buy something that's either not up to the task in terms of manufacturing precision or strength, then you're going to end up with a weakness in your system. Now there's a bit of a backstory here. We realized pretty quickly that a lot of the calls and emails we were getting from customers needing help with their scopes were due to mounting issues. In some cases it was issues with mounts being torqued down incorrectly or mounts being spaced incorrectly, and we've dealt with this in different videos pertaining to the correct way to mount your scope and the correct way to torque down your scope and why torque is so important, which we'll link down below. But in quite a few cases we found that customers had set aside a budget for the rifle and the scope, and it kind of put the mounts on the back burner and had ended up purchasing mounts that just weren't up to the task and having alignment issues where the mounts weren't matched correctly or machined precisely enough to actually keep the scope straight, or they were torquing the body tube of the scope and causing damage. There's a lot of issues that can come from mounts that aren't made correctly. Of course, there are a number of really great mounts out there from very reputable manufacturers that work just fine, but we wanted to bring something to the table based on our own experience and really just not compromise at all on build quality or materials. And that is how the Accu-Lite mounts were born. The name Accu-Lite kind of tells the story pretty well. Let's start with the Accu part. Each ring pair is machined from a single block of 7075 T6 aluminum, unlike most cheaper mounts which are extruded from a much softer and weaker aluminum alloy. A bit of history on 7075 aluminum. It was developed in secret during World War II by Japan for their Zero fighters and has been used on many aircraft bodies ever since because of very high tensile and shear strength. It is quite a bit more difficult to machine than many other aluminum alloys, which is partly why this material ends up costing a little bit more to make parts like this with. However, the strength to weight ratio is pretty much the best you'll find. With the cross bolt and nut at the bottom, we've opted for stainless steel. It's just a little bit stronger than the aluminum. I've had far too many cross bolts fail in my lifetime when trying to torque them up to the spec they need to be to stay on the rail just fine. So we really went all out here, and this you can crank up all the way to basically 70 inch-pounds. I'm trying not to hurt my hand here, but this torque wrench is set to 68 inch-pounds and it will handle it just fine. Just a side note here on this base clamp, this is actually spring-loaded, which means that as you loosen the nut at the bottom, the clamp will stay out. It just makes it a little bit easier to actually fit it onto your pick rail before you torque it down. So just small details like that I think make a big difference. So there's the Accu part. You don't have to worry about under torquing, you don't have to worry about machining precision, that's all there. Let's talk about the light part. Well, we've already mentioned the materials. Aluminum is light, but the design also plays a pretty big part in this. We've put a lot of effort into trimming away the fat, so to speak, by removing material in places where it doesn't need to be. If you look at the close-up of these mounts here, especially the top, you'll see that there's a rounded design. This means that there's quite a smooth feel over here, so if you're walking through thick brush or anything like that, you're not going to get branches getting stuck on the edges. It's nice and smooth, it looks really good, but there's a pretty strong backbone down the middle over here, which takes a lot of that stress when you torque these mounts down. We've also done a lot of research into the dimensions that we needed for the torque specs that we wanted. So for example, when this is torqued down properly, we know that this width is going to hold up just fine. And that's what you need in a mount. And might I add, it looks really good. That little Element logo on top is pretty subtle, but I think it's one little feature that just makes it pop. We also put a lot of time into deciding between a 4-screw design and a 6-screw design. We felt that 4-screw design was more than enough for most applications. This is more than enough if you torque it down properly, and because there's a slight gap between the top and bottom ring, there's constant tension on those screws pulling from both sides, and that essentially stops the screws from coming loose by themselves. So that was an intentional part of the design. We have also made these mounts pretty versatile. We all know about the chaos between metric and imperial, and when you're talking about Allen keys and getting one size wrong, you can potentially strip an Allen key quite easily. So for the ring screws on top, we've opted for Torx screws. These are T15 Torx screws, which is something that comes standard with many torque kits, like this one over here from Fix-It Sticks. It's much more difficult to strip a Torx screw. Even if you get it slightly wrong, it's not going to strip. And because they're available with most Torx sets, you're going to have all the tools you need if you buy a set. Plus, we've included a T15 Torx screw or Torx key with the kit, so that'll work just fine. With the nut, we've again gone universal. We've made this 12.7 millimeters, which is a really good size because it fits both a 13 millimeter socket if you want to go metric, and a 1/2 inch socket if you want to go imperial. It'll work with both. Neither of them will strip this, and that means that you can use either set if you have a specific metric or imperial set. Plus, 1/2 inch or 13 millimeter is what comes standard with most torque kits as well, like this Fix-It Stick kit. So you're going to have what you need when you buy the kit. We've made these compatible with both Weaver and Picatinny rails, and we are going to be offering these from the start in 3 heights in both 30 and 34 millimeter diameters, which means that it's more than likely that one of these will suit your setup pretty perfectly. If you want more information on the ring heights from the top of your rail to the center of the ring, we include all that information in the box. So you'll get your rings in a nice foam cutaway box like this, and there will be an information sheet. Inside the information sheet, we have all the torque specs you'll need for both the ring screws and the base nut, and we have the specs for the heights, the construction material, and the tools required for using this. And of course, at the back, we have a QR code which you can scan, and it'll take you to our webpage for the mounts where we will provide additional information. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is an introduction to the one and only Accu-Lite mounts. It took us about a year to develop these, so we're pretty proud of how they turned out. I've got these medium 30 millimeter mounts on the new 4-16 Helix, which I'm going to be taking on a hunting trip very soon. I think it fits this 22-50 really well, keeps it nice and light. And if you want more information, you're welcome to head over to our website at www.element-optics.com. Check us out on social media, and of course tag us in your photos and videos on social media using the hashtag #SeeItSendIt, and we'll repost your photos. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.